The void was silent, but it whispered to Captain Zarrar in his dreams. Not words, not even sounds, but a pressure, an insistent, crawling weight that pressed against the edges of his mind, promising answers to questions he hadn't yet dared to ask. He woke gasping in his bunk aboard the Erebus *, the ship's recycled air tasting of rust and regret. The chronometer blinked 03:17, ship time, though time itself felt meaningless this far from Sol. They were 47 light years from Earth, in a sector of space no human had charted, chasing a signal that shouldn't exist. Zarrar rubbed his face, his stubble rough against calloused palms, and tried to shake the sensation that something was watching him from the dark beyond the hull. The signal had come 3 months ago, a faint pulse intercepted by a deep space probe. It wasn't random noise or cosmic background radiation. It was structured, deliberate, a sequence of primes repeating in a way that screamed intelligence. The United Earth Directorate had scrambled the Erebus *, a sleek, militarized research vessel, to investigate. Zarrar, a grizzled veteran of a dozen exoplanetary missions, was chosen to lead the 5-person crew. He hadn't wanted the job. The last mission, a survey of a rogue planet in the Uit cloud, had left him with nightmares of ice caves that seemed to breathe. But duty was a chain, and he wore it willingly. The crew was a mix of brilliance and baggage. Dr. Lena Voss, the xenobiologist, was a prodigy with a cold edge, her eyes always scanning for something no one else could see. Engineer Mateo Cruz was the heart of the ship, his humor a shield against the void's weight. Dr. Aisha Khan, the physicist, was quiet but relentless, her mind a labyrinth of equations. And then there was Specialist Elias Rook, the security officer, a man whose silence was louder than words. His past a locked box Zarrar hadn't bothered to pry open. They were good, the best, but Zarrar felt the cracks in their cohesion even before the signal source came into view. It was a planet, or something like one, orbiting a dim red dwarf. The Erebus *'S sensors struggled to categorize it. Its surface was a chaotic mosaic of jagged obsidian peaks and glowing, bioluminescent trenches, as if the world had been shattered and stitched back together by a mad god. The signal emanated from a point deep within one of those trenches, a pulsing beacon that seemed to hum in Zarrar's bones when he listened to the raw audio. "It's not just a signal," Khan had said, her voice tight. "It's a summons." They landed the Erebus * on a plateau near the trench, the ship's landing gear sinking slightly into the glassy black surface. The air was breathable, barely, with a metallic tang that clung to the throat. The crew suited up anyway, their exosuits hissing as they sealed. Zarrar led the way, his flashlight cutting through the dim, reddish haze. The trench loomed ahead, a gash in the planet's skin that seemed to swallow light. The signal grew louder in their comms, a rhythmic thrum that made Zarrar's teeth ache. He glanced at Voss, whose eyes were wide behind her visor, not with fear but with hunger. "This is it," she whispered. "This is everything." The descent into the trench was slow, their boots crunching on a surface that felt alive, pulsing faintly underfoot. The walls were smooth, almost organic, etched with patterns that defied geometry, spirals that seemed to twist inward forever, angles that hurt to look at. Khan muttered about non-Euclidean spaces, her voice trembling. Cruz tried to joke, something about needing a bigger flashlight, but it fell flat, swallowed by the oppressive dark. Rook said nothing, his rifle held low but ready. Zarrar felt the weight again, that dream, whisper urging him deeper. At the trench's bottom they found it, a structure if you could call it that. It was massive, a dome of black, glassy material that seemed to drink the light from their torches. The signal poured from it, so loud now it vibrated in their chests. There was no door, no seam, just a surface that rippled like liquid when Zarrar touched it. He pulled his hand back, heart pounding, but the ripple spread, and the dome parted like a wound, revealing a tunnel that descended into darkness. "We go in," Zarrar said, his voice steadier than he felt. No one argued, but he saw the fear in their eyes, even Voss's. The tunnel was warm, the air thick with a smell like ozone and decay. The walls glowed faintly, veins of blue light pulsing in time with the signal. Zarrar's suit sensors flickered, unable to parse the environment. "This isn't natural," Khan said, her voice barely a whisper. "It's engineered, but not by anything human." The tunnel opened into a chamber, vast and spherical, its walls lined with thousands of crystalline structures, each one glowing with that same blue light. At the center was a pedestal, and on it, 3 objects. They were statues, or so Zarrar thought at first. Each was about a meter tall, humanoid but wrong, limbs too long, heads featureless except for deep, hollow sockets where eyes should have been. Their surfaces were black, absorbing light like the dome above, but they shimmered with an inner fire, as if something alive writhed beneath. The signal was deafening now, a scream in their minds. Voss stepped forward, mesmerized, her gloved hand reaching out. "Don't," Zarrar snapped, but it was too late. Her fingers brushed the nearest statue and the world changed. The chamber pulsed, the crystals flaring blindingly. Zarrar's vision swam, and for a moment, he saw not with his eyes, but with his mind. A vista of stars, galaxies spiraling into a maw of infinite darkness, and something vast, older than time, watching. The vision snapped shut, and he was back in the chamber, his crew staggering, gasping. Voss was on her knees, blood trickling from her nose. "They're awake." She whispered, her voice raw. "They sent 3. They sent them asterisk." The statues were gone. In their place stood 3 figures, tall and thin, their forms shimmering like heat haze. They moved, not walking but gliding, their eyeless faces fixed on the crew. Zarrar's instincts screamed to run, but his legs wouldn't move. The air grew heavy, pressing down, and he felt that whisper again, louder, clearer. "Asterisk, you were called. You came." Asterisk, the figures raised their arms, and the chamber shook, crystals shattering, the walls weeping a viscous, black fluid. Rook fired first, his rifle's muzzle flashed stark against the dark. The rounds hit the nearest figure, but it didn't flinch. Its body seemed to absorb the bullets, ripples spreading across its surface. Cruz screamed, scrambling backward, but the second figure was on him, its hand passing through his chest like smoke. Cruz froze, his eyes wide, then collapsed, his suit empty, as if his body had been erased. Khan was muttering equations, her voice a desperate chant, but the third figure turned to her, and she fell silent, her face slack, her eyes bleeding. Zarrar grabbed Voss, dragging her toward the tunnel. Rook followed, firing uselessly. The figures didn't pursue, but their presence was everywhere, a weight in the air, a hum in the skull. The tunnel seemed longer now, the walls closing in, the blue veins pulsing faster. Zarrar's suit was failing, its HUD flickering with nonsense symbols. Voss was sobbing, muttering about the senders, about truths too big for words. Rook was silent, but Zarrar saw the terror in his eyes, the kind that breaks a man. They reached the surface, the trench, his mouth a red wound against the sky. The Erebus was still there, but it felt wrong, its hull reflecting the planet's glow in ways that twisted the eye. Zarrar shoved Voss into the airlock, Rook stumbling behind. The ship's systems were haywire, screens displaying static that formed fleeting, impossible shapes. Zarrar slammed the controls, and the Erebus roared to life, lifting off as the plateau cracked beneath them, the trench vomiting a cloud of black mist. In orbit, Zarrar tried to piece it together. Cruz and Khan were gone, their bunks empty, their gear untouched, as if they'd never existed. Voss was catatonic, staring at the bulkhead, whispering about the 3 and the senders. Rook was worse. He sat in the corner, carving strange symbols into his arm with a knife, his eyes distant. Zarrar checked the ship's logs, but they were corrupted, filled with data that made no sense. Images of stars that didn't exist. Audio of voices speaking in languages that hurt to hear. The signal was still there, fainter but persistent, following them. He tried to contact Earth, but the comms were dead, replaced by a low hum that carried that same whisper. Asterisk, you were called. You came. Asterisk, Zarrar's dreams grew worse. Visions of the three figures standing in a void, their hollow faces filled with stars. He saw the senders or glimpses of them, entities vast as nebulae, their forms shifting, incomprehensible, their thoughts a storm that could unmake reality. They had sent the three, not as monsters but as emissaries, fragments of their will, and the Erebus had been lured, not to discover but to deliver. Days passed, or maybe weeks. Time blurred in the ship's dim corridors. Voss began to change. Her skin grew pale, almost translucent, her veins glowing faintly blue. She spoke in bursts, her words a mix of terror and awe. "They're not gods," she said once, her eyes feverish. "They're older. They don't want worship. They want us to see." Zarrar didn't ask what she meant. He was afraid of the answer. Rook was gone one morning, his bunk empty, the knife left behind, its blade etched with those same impossible symbols. Zarrar found blood in the engine room, smeared in patterns that made his head ache, but no body. Alone with Voss, Zarrar felt the ship closing in. The Erebus was no longer his. It belonged to the signal, to the three. He saw them sometimes, in the corners of his vision, gliding through walls, their forms less solid now, more like shadows cast by something vast. The ship's sensors detected nothing, but Zarrar felt their gaze, a weight that crushed his soul. Voss tried to explain, her voice breaking. "The three are bridges," she said. "They connect us to the senders, but we're not ready, our minds. They break under the truth." The truth came for Zarrar in his sleep. He dreamed of a cosmos without end, where stars were eyes, watching, judging. The senders spoke, not in words but in concepts that burned his mind. Existence was a flaw, a fleeting error in the fabric of the infinite. Humanity was a spark, brief and meaningless, but curious, too curious. The senders had watched, amused, until curiosity became intrusion. The signal was a test, a lure, and Zarrar had failed it. The three were not here to destroy but to reveal, to show humanity its place, a speck of dust in a storm of gods. He woke to find Voss gone, her bunk empty, her suit sealed in the airlock, its visor smeared with that same black fluid from the dome. The Erebus was adrift, its engines dead, its systems singing the signal like a hymn. Zarrar sat in the cockpit, staring at the viewscreen, where the stars seemed to pulse in time with his heartbeat. The three were there, in the dark, their forms no longer separate but one, a shadow that stretched across the void. He saw the senders behind them, their forms vast, their thoughts a scream that tore at his sanity. Zarrar didn't try to fight. He opened the airlock, letting the void in. The cold was a mercy, the silence a lie. As his vision faded, he heard the whisper one last time. "You were called. You came. Now see." And he did. He saw the truth, the vast, indifferent horror of a universe that didn't care, where humanity was a fleeting thought in a mind too big to comprehend. He saw the senders, and they saw him, and in that moment he was unmade, his scream lost in the dark. The Erebus drifted on, a ghost ship, its hull etched with symbols no human could read. The signal faded, but it didn't stop its spread, a whisper in the void, waiting for the next to answer its call. And somewhere, in the far reaches of the cosmos, the senders watched, amused, as another spark flickered, curious, doomed. The moral was clear, though none were left to hear it. Some truths are too vast, too cruel, for mortal minds. To seek them is to invite the dark, To see is to break, and to know is to vanish. The universe is not yours, it never was.